start with Turtle graphics library that we can use to program our computers to do some simple tasks such as drawing a square on the screen. In order to do so, we use the import directive, which tells the Python interpreter that we need the Turtle library, which is a built-in library. It might be a third-party library as well in your program. The import directive tells the Python interpreter during runtime to find this Turtle library and execute the relevant code included in this source file. And if it is not present in the executing computer, an error will be raised, so the client has to solve that, or you should be shipping your code with correct libraries. You should be making sure that whichever code you write can be executed on the target environment. In this Teaching.Codes plugin, you're going to see switch to code buttons under each example. When you press switch to code, it's going to bring an individual copy of yours that is stored on the server, and you can experiment on these source files. And when you press log out, your file will be stored on the server, and you can continue when you go home or when you come back to lab. Okay, it applies to your projects as well. So when we try to run this source file, we right click on the editor area and we say run draw a square with turtle function. What it did is it has moved 100 units to right, and then it made a right turn, and it repeated this process 4 times. The reason it's moving right initially is that it is oriented to the right by default, so that's not something we set. The library has 0 degrees orientation initially, so if you make a forward move for 100 units as the initial action, it's going to move to the right of the screen. You can change it if you like. And in this source code, you can also use other libraries such as math for mathematical operations, such as calculating a sine function, cosine function, or some logarithmic function, etc. You're going to use the IO, which means input and output library. Time may be required, which you can use to make calculations depending on time. OS is for operating system actions, such as retrieving a file or doing some specific tasks which are operating system dependent. And operating system is your Windows or the Macintosh operating system you are using, Mac OS or iOS, whichever you are using, or Android. Okay, these are called operating systems that serve your computer to execute custom-built user applications. And the random library is for generating random choices, random numbers, random integers. We will come to the details of those in upcoming videos. And if you want to draw 2 squares inside one another, starting from the inner square, first you need to again import the turtle, set a pen size using the pen size function. Okay, you don't have to, but it's going to draw a very thin line if you don't set it. So pen size receives an argument as a number, which is 5, and pen color receives a text as the color name. There are names that Turtle can understand, such as red, yellow, green, etc. It is available in the Turtle library that you can find, the Turtle reference library that's available online for the legitimate color names. After those lines, we have the forward function. Okay, we will be discussing functions very soon, but a function basically starts with a name. It has a name, and it starts with an opening parenthesis, an argument or multiple arguments, or no arguments at all, and it ends with a closing parenthesis. So this is a function that moves our turtle cursor to the right of the screen initially. So it actually moves the turtle to wherever it is pointing at. So it doesn't know about right or left. If we tell turtle to turn right, it makes a 90-degree turn clockwise. Again, at every call to the forward function, it's going to move along the direction it's pointing to. So when we complete the first square, let's run this code first. Run drawing two squares. It's going to output these two squares. Okay, first it's going to complete the drawing code of the first square, which is 100 units wide, and then it's going to move the turtle to the beginning point of the next square, which is the blue square. Okay, there's a spacing between these two. The spacing is 10 units in both horizontal and vertical directions, in both x and y axis. So we lift our turtle using the pen up function, and then we make a backward move of 10 units, where the turtle is not going to draw anything because we have lifted our pen from the canvas. And we're going to make all these moves to put the turtle back to the beginning point of the next square. There we are going to start moving forward for 120 units because the spacing is 10 units in all directions between the squares, and it's going to complete the second square, and the program is going to end after this line, after completing the square drawing program. So these two squares were not centered in the screen. We can initially position our turtle to -50 to +50 as x and y coordinates to begin with, and then after that we can repeat the same code, same square drawing code to draw two squares right in the middle of the screen. If you run this as well, you're going to see that these additional 3 lines are in fact helping you to reposition your turtle before starting to draw these two squares on the screen.